took baby out very swiftly, quickly, but he wasn't breathing. Hi guys, it's Coily Diaries back with another video. This video is very personal to me. It's also very emotional because I will be sharing with you guys something I don't have to share, but I want to because it helps me heal, but it could help someone else out there as well. So yeah, this is my story. It's a testimony of how God has brought me through this whole experience with the pregnancy and then the birth. And then the birth. There was, so much that happened that I did not even think would happen. I'm gonna be raw with you guys. I haven't made any notes about this because it's a very personal experience for me. But here it goes. So 10 p.m. the 7th of July, contractions start. My pregnancy is just 3 days past due date. 2 days actually, 2 days past due date. So baby was due on the 5th of July. 7th July, contractions start at 10 p.m. They're very manageable, nothing too drastic. I sit on my pregnancy ball that I used to sit on for comfort and for my exercises, and as I stand up from there, my water breaks. Everyone in the home is excited and we come together to pray. Thank God for a journey that's quickly coming to an end with an epic ending, because we're going to be meeting our son for the first time. We called the maternity ward and asked them what we should do moving forward, told them the situation, and they decided, look, come into ED because we want to see where the cord of the baby is. We want to make sure that you are traveling well and this, everything's fine. So we just want to make sure you are okay, and we want to put you on antibiotics, because I had GBS, etc. So that was well and good. I was laboring through. We headed up to the hospital around, I want to say 1 o'clock, I may be wrong, in the morning. We head out there, I'm working through my contractions, everything's fine. However, baby's pulse is elevated. So they're monitoring me more closely and I'm working through the contractions, no problems. One of the nurses comes and she wants to do a cervical sweep and also to see how dilated I am. I didn't really want this, and I did mention it to them that I wasn't keen on the vaginal exams, etc. But they said, look, we really want to see this because 2 weeks ago when I went to see the doctor, they had told me I'm actually 3 centimeters dilated already and I wasn't in labor. So I was thinking to myself, I'm probably 6 at the moment. She checks and I'm at 4. It's uncomfortable. Anyone that's gone through pregnancy and, getting your cervix checked is not nice. It's similar to a pap smear but worse, you know what I mean? Don't want to scare you, but it is what it is. Sorry guys, it started to rain, so there might be a background noise in the video. Anyway, the pulse is elevated, and they're noticing that with every contraction, baby's heart rate actually drops. They do the ultrasound, everything seems fine. The doctor that did the ultrasound wasn't able to see the cord, but they didn't seem to worry too much about it. A senior consultant came in, however, and said, we want to do some test on you. I don't know what I've forgotten what the name of the test was. We want to do a test, but it involved pricking the head of the baby to collect a blood sample to run a test to see what's going on with him and to make sure that he's not in distress, because with the way the pulse was dropping with each contraction, the doctor was sort of under the assumption that, not the assumption, the doctor said to me, you know, we need to find out what's happening, because, you know, it's not ideal that the baby's pulse is dropping with each contraction. So I was laboring through. However, you know, as I'm laboring, I'm thinking, you know, I don't want my baby to be pricked. And I don't know about you guys, but that's when my motherly instinct just kicked in and I freaked out. I was like, no, 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 I'm not having this done. No, I'm not having this done at all. Another doctor came in and said, okay, we won't do that yet. How about we just check how dilated you are? This is a few hours later. They check and I'm still at 4. However, this doctor was particularly rough. She was impatient, she was rough, and she went to town in my cervix, guys. I couldn't believe how rough that felt. As she was doing it, I screamed, I told her to stop. She continued. I started shaking because, you know, my space is invaded. There's talk about pricking my baby. We don't know why the pulse is dropping. I'm having to deal with these contractions. Crazy. As we're waiting to see how things go, baby's pulse drops lower than all the other pulses that, you know, he had, you know, that we had recorded. And from there, the doctor spoke to me and said, this is gonna have to be a C-section because, yeah, baby needs to be delivered within the hour. And within, because you're only 4 centimeters dilated, I don't think that you will be 10 centimeters in an hour. So this is a C-section. We just need to decide whether or not it's an emergency C-section or it can be scheduled, and we can sort of take our time within that space, within that hour. As we're discussing that, guys, I had another contraction. I'm shaking at this time just from being traumatized from the cervical sweep. I'm having this contraction that just won't let go. You know how contractions come in waves, they come and they go. I had labored this time so hard. It was now 7 a.m. in the morning. And there didn't seem to be much progression with regards to the dilation. And as that contraction happened and didn't let go, baby's pulse disappeared. They couldn't hear my baby's pulse. According to my family members and everybody, they say I lost it a little bit, as in I wasn't in my normal state of mind. I was not focused anymore. I was very anxious and was not really communicating very well. At that time when the pulse dropped, it was an emergency. They hit the code blue. There was a rush of medical staff into the room. My mom and my sister were asked to step aside. Hubby, come with us, and off we went. I was screaming down the hallway. I was in so much pain. This contraction maintained for a good 15 minutes. It maintained. I was hysterical. We get to the theater. This is after planning for a vaginal birth, guys. You can just imagine how traumatized I was, just thinking, okay, from vaginal birth to C-section to emergency C-section, and oh my goodness, the anesthetist is trying to calm me down. They try to put an epidural in. It didn't work. It didn't work, and they had no choice but to put me down. So I've got not 1 but 2 lots of anesthesia, and that was it. I was gone. I remember the last thing I thought to myself was, no, take care of it, Lord. I just left it to God, and I was just like, this is beyond me. I was obviously crying, and before my husband could make it to theater, they had put me under GA, and once you're under GA, no family can come. They had cut me open, and yeah, baby was out. Upon waking up, however, I discovered the real horror that was happening at that time, and that was when they opened me up, took baby out very swiftly, quickly, but he wasn't breathing. He was blue. He had his cord wrapped around his neck, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And they had to resuscitate him. The thought that I could have lost my baby if we attempted a vaginal birth, the thought that we could have lost the baby even after doing a C-section, the thought that, praise God, they were able to resuscitate him. He was covered in meconium and that. And even though I didn't see it, just the knowledge of it sends shivers down my body, because you just don't imagine that you would be so unlucky, you know. Yeah. So, sorry. So they resuscitate Bob. There's a few complications, of course. Part of his lung is collapsed. They have to take him to the NICU. Guys, we had plans. We had plans to delay the cord clamping. We had plans that Dad will cut the umbilical cord and that I would have skin to skin with my baby immediately, to hear that first cry, you know, that I would have my sister and my mom in there and my husband, of course. Nothing. None of that happened. All the while, my husband wasn't able to get into theatre. My mom and my sister obviously not able to get in. They're also losing it. Lots of tears, lots of praying, just praying for a miracle. Thankfully, baby was okay to go to NICU after the resuscitation, of course. And you can imagine, as they were updating my husband, you know, baby's not breathing. Oh, the cord is wrapped around 3 times, but we're trying. And they go back. Oh, now we're doing this, and then they go back. You can imagine the agony of that suspense that he had to go through as well. So I think sometimes we think all moms are the only ones who get traumatized from these birth experiences, but dads do as well. And I was just wondering, how could they miss that cord on the ultrasound? But apparently it's not always easy to see it. And I had lots of ultrasounds during the pregnancy, and I'm thinking, I'm sure it didn't happen in one day that he would have his cord around his neck 3 times. It happened over time. Nobody was able to pick it up. It was so unfortunate. But anyway, Bob is transferred to the nursery, and they tell my husband, look, your wife, I have lost a lot of blood, about 1 liter of blood, and they can't stop the bleeding. So they're trying to sew me up and stitch me up and at the same time stop the bleeding, but I bled so hard. My husband was praying, lots of confusion. I think a good 30 minutes or so, they come back and say she's in recovery, but she's in a state. So you can't see her yet. Only God knows what I was doing or saying or what was going on. A few minutes later, they came back and said to hubby, you know, you can come in now into recovery. He comes in, and apparently I was shaking hysterically. I was not coherent. I kept crying and saying to him, I failed him, I failed him, I failed him, I failed my baby. And I kept asking him the question, have you seen him? He would pull up photos. This is now after he's gone to see the baby at the nursery. He had that privilege. And I kept asking him, have you seen him? He would show me pictures, and after a few minutes I'll ask him the same question, have you seen him? And he said I asked him about 5 times. It took a few hours before my mind came back completely, and then the pain kicked in. C-section is no joke, guys. I mean, round of applause for people that push babies out, but a C-section is no joke either. It's not a joke. Firsthand, I couldn't believe the pain. It was excruciating. It was so much pain. But I was happy. Baby was alive. Baby was being taken care of. Part of his lung was collapsed. His respirs were not that great. His cry was very weak. He was jaundiced. You know, he was struggling to latch. But I was glad that we had gone through the worst part So I thought, a few days later, I started vomiting this like green fluids. It was like, I think 1.5 liters. I've just pulled all of it out. Even on a hungry stomach, I was eating normally, but I still had the nausea, and I still had the excess saliva, and I thought to myself, I thought the pregnancy symptoms are supposed to subside. Guess what? I had another complication. They told me I had a rare complication called an ileus, where the bowel just freezes. It goes to sleep after surgery or after general anesthetic. And yeah, we had to give it like 3 days or 4 days to come back functioning as well. So the doctor said to me, I'm sorry ma'am, but you're gonna have to fast for 3 days. 3 days, no food, post-surgery, lots of pain. They have to lower the opioids because they were constipating me, and they did not aid in the healing process of the ileus. So I was in pain, and I was eating ice chips for 3 days and trying to breastfeed and trying to allow the milk to come in, trying to take a shower. It was crazy. They decided, look, we're gonna have to put an NG tube into you to allow the fluids to drain, and hopefully we can slowly start you back onto a normal diet. Anyway, they did that, put an NG tube, terrible experience as well. And it just drained, and slowly I started getting back on fluids and clear fluids, and then soft diet, and then built it up like that. My baby eventually also was picking up. He needed to have an NG tube because I wasn't producing enough milk. And then, yeah, he just wasn't latching well, obviously, because of the whole birth situation was obviously heavy on him as well. So he had to go through that. So yeah, NG tube into him, NG tube into me. And I'll share some photos that, are very personal to me, but just in case there's someone out there that goes through a similar experience, hang in there. It gets better. It gets better, and God does what he always does. We had a host of family and friends just praying and encouraging us and cheering us along. And after a week or so, 10 days, I was finally discharged and we came home. Luckily, all is well with Bob. He's thriving. He's 2 months old now, and I'm healing well. Until, what was it? I think a month post C-section, I get this excruciating pain. It starts in my back and it came to my abdomen, and I thought, is this gas? Is this the ileus? What is this? We call the ambulance. It's a busy night. They don't make it here on time. And we managed to sort of control the pain with simple analgesia, but it comes back a week later. And this time I have to go to ED. We drove to we call it ED here, but in the States, I think it's ER. We drive up there, they do some scans. Ma'am, you've got gallstones. If you've ever had gallstone pain, like a gallstone attack, they call it biliary colic. It is crazy. It's so painful, you can't even cry. Endone couldn't touch me. Morphine first dose, nothing. I think the second or third dose, that's when the pain started to subside. I was in pain for hours, excruciating pain. The doctor comes to me and says, I'm sorry ma'am, but you're gonna have to go on a waiting list for surgery because we need to take your gallbladder out. I said, what? Is that the only way? And they said, yes, that's the only way. We're gonna have to take it out, but it's not inflamed, and just control your portion sizes and try and avoid fat and oils and things like that. And that's where I'm at the moment. If you've ever had a gallstone or gallstones and been able to manage it, or I don't know if you ended up removing it. Do comment below, let me know what your experience is. But at the moment, I'm just in the valley of decision. I'm trying one more thing. I'm going to try the gallbladder flush before I succumb to surgery again. And I wish someone had told me. Apparently pregnant women are at risk of gallbladder attacks. The hormones apparently bring it on. And for me, because of the hyperemesis, I wasn't drinking as much water. My diet was not the best. And I was on a proton pump inhibitor called omeprazole. And that can sort of encourage the gallstones or even the attack to happen. Had I known, look, maybe I would have braved it. I don't know. Maybe just opt to stay in hospital on IV, IV fluids and just nutrition as well. But yeah, no one ever thinks that you have a worst case scenario for every step of your journey, and that's exactly what I've experienced. And I'm grateful that God has brought me through. I'm stronger, but I'm still healing, and I'm still processing a lot of things about the birth of my son. He's a precious boy. He's beautiful, and he's gone through a lot, and we're grateful, but this is a story that I will never forget. Do comment below what your experiences have been around birth. I know some people have had beautiful births, beautiful water births, vaginal births, or C-sections, whatever the case. And it's great that women are able to have a positive birth experience. That was not my story, and that's okay, because we live in a world of sin and things are not perfect, but I'm glad I'm on the road to recovery now. Alright guys, until next time, it's Coily Diaries.